I'll be introducing my guests for today's discussion, but in the meantime, let me run you by some of the stories that caught the attention of the papers and were headlined in the course of the week. Even before we come your way with the headlines, let me introduce the guests and pick their thoughts. Of course, producer wants us to start with the headlines. On your screens now, we have economic fundamentals strong. That's according to the Finance Minister, Ken Oforiatta. Of course, the Finance Minister has been very busy this week justifying the need for the e-levy and why the citizens need to rally behind managers of the economy. Because the explosion issue is very important, to be spending a chunk of our time today to look at some of the issues and what government has promised to do for them. Teacher unions raised red flag over new contact hours, and that story is fully captured on page 15 of the Daily Graphic. German precise about funeral rights for Dasebre Otiboatin. That's also in the papers. You want to read more of that, grab a copy of them. Of course, our lead story in that regard will be the issue about the strength of the economy. Mayhem in Nima, 9 arrested after bloody clash over turf war between two Nima Mamobi youth gangs, and that story has dominated headlines in the course of the week. The National Chief Imam has spoken. He has condemned the incident and called on the state's security agencies to take charge and ensure the prosecution of those behind the mayhem. President returns from inaugural ceremony of the Gambia. President Adama Barrow seen there in the front page. Trial of Osu Bempa, 6 others adjourned to February 2nd. And that's also on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. If you want to read more of the incident in Nima, grab a copy of the paper. Of course, we'll be discussing that on the show today. We'll also be engaging a security analyst to help us deal with the root cause of such problems. First ever actual corruption survey, Shraj GSS evaluates 250,000 households, and that's quite refreshing. Because we had a lot of perception about corruption, and this survey, I think, will come out with findings that will help us deal with the problem. GRA beats target, collects 57.32 billion Ghana cedis in 2021, and that's approximately 0.8% in terms of the percentage. They have gone above the target. We'll be interrogating that in line with the insistence that the economy is strong and not as being pictured, painted by international media. The likes of Bloomberg have written stories where government has contested the data used in that. So we'll be interrogating all that into this discussion. And 7 perish in fire outbreak at Budumburam, another sad development in the course of the week. Government releases 154 million Ghana cedis to SHS, and that has the picture of the education minister hungry to support construction of wastewater treatment plant in 13 regions. Hungarian president tours Kumasi plant, and that has the picture of the Hungarian president who visited sometime earlier in the week. Rehabilitate our roads to facilitate socio-economic activities, and that's according to the Akachi North chief, who wants a fair share of the national cake in terms of infrastructure. They want their fair share to enhance socio-economic activity within their area. Fatal explosion at Apiate. Community wiped out. President commiserates with families, and that's also a sad development. Of course, it's our lead discussion for today. Let's cross over to Bogoso and speak with our correspondent who has been monitoring events since last night. Thank you so much, Desmond, for following up on the issue for us since last night. What have you gathered so far, aside what the Vice President has communicated to the nation? Yes, it appears the Vice President is still addressing a section of...
Government and the agencies of government is also seeing ordinary people help so much in this relief. And today I want to also give thanks to the Catholic Church, and we will do everything that we are able to do to provide relief to all the deceased, to make sure all the sick are taken care of because the government and to make sure that the families of those who have passed are not left alone. So we thank you very, very much. And we are presenting all these things to the people through the municipal chief executive to make sure that they are distributed, including a sum of $200,000 to take care of their initial. Thank you very much.
Sir, please, I'm coming. Sir, I'm coming.
The Vice President there, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, presenting the first batch of relief items from NADMO, from governments to the affected residents. That's quite swift, and we want to see more of the support coming the way of the community as they face or what they've been presented with is quite devastating. Their community has been wiped out entirely, and their farmlands, lives have been lost. And we urge the government, together with well-meaning Ghanaians, to channel their support to the affected community. Let me quickly introduce my guest for today's discussion. We'll be going to Bogosu in a while also to bring to you up to speed what is happening there. On my immediate left is Elikem Kotoko. He's a member of the NDC communication team, and just after him is Frederick Kofi Amia, who is also a member of the MPP communication team. Quickly, Elikem, let me start with you. Quite worrying development what we saw yesterday afternoon till this morning, and quite refreshing to see the swiftness of the state authorities in terms of helping to alleviate or mitigate the effect of the explosion on the people.
Yeah, it's very sad. Our commiserations to the victims, relatives, and the people of the entire area. I believe strongly that nobody was expecting disaster of such nature, but however, there's need for us to ensure that matters of this nature are not left either hanging or just to fade, as has always been the case. I am sure there's been some breaches. Many people have asked a lot of questions. Was there not an escort? What was the duty of the escorts? How did it happen that another machine actually colluded with them? And also the fact that there were some concerns raised also that this same company, the Maxam company, sometime in 2017, the Minister for Interior visited them and challenged them to ensure they meet safety standards because they had not met the standards at the time. As to whether they did it or not, did somebody sleep on the job, and what exactly transpired? Because we ought to know. The Ghanaian culture of also trying to constantly be present at scenes to witness for themselves may have also worsened the issue, because when we saw flames coming out from the place, others were still running
instead of people running away, they were rather
have a look. It raises also another concern about our education system, which continues to be standardized instead of being customized. Where if you take Japan, for instance, their children are taught to know that, look, we are in a fault line, and therefore there can be an earthquake at any time, and when it happens, this is what you need to do. It is also a clarion call on these institutions, the mining companies, that think that they come in and embark on these missions where they go and drill a borehole for a community, build a 3-classroom block, and go and
in the name of CSR.
Go and visit the chief and give some cola and all that, and they believe they have done more than enough and should be applauded when they come into our studios to commend themselves for doing these things. We need to be demanding more. Why am I saying so? There needs to be proper education for people living in such communities to understand the dangers associated with even having mining companies in your community. Therefore, you appreciate what you need to do. An example is where we even have fuel tankers turn over, and you see people rushing there thinking it's a gold mine, they want to siphon fuel, forgetting that there can be an explosion, or there will be an eventual explosion. And so all these things, I'm told the driver is alive, obviously, because he knows what he was carrying, he knew what he was carrying, he knew the magnitude of what could happen. So even while he was trying to
drive people
away, they were still not really listening. But what was the police doing? Who were the professionals? If you look at the LI 2177, especially section 95 and 107, that all tells clearly what exactly should be done or what the requirements are supposed to be before moving these explosives. It tells us that there's been some breach or breaches along the way, and we must investigate this to see what has fallen. I think I must commend the Vice President for the swift response in getting relief items. I only pray that they are not expired products anyways, you know. Yes, and so, because we need more of such. If you recall, in Sierra Leone, we had to go give them over $1 million when disaster befell them. And therefore, if in our own country, you could see that the whole community has been wiped off, everything has been raised to the ground. And it's also another lucrative grounds for other people to also see what they can retrieve from there. So the whole place needs to be cordoned off the public, which is not done yet, and therefore all manner of people can move in.
I'm quite worried. Let me bring it, Fred. I'm quite worried the exposure to the gases can also cause some harm to their lives. And I've heard calls for people to move away, yet we're not seeing that in the pictures. You see people still trying to collect some of the items and those. So that's quite worrying.
Sani, good morning to your good self. Happy New Year and good morning to you. And Happy New Year to your viewers as well. I've had discussions with Elikem for a while, almost 2 years or more. And for the first time, I will agree with him. In fact, in Akan, they will say, if not for the fact that I would have to contribute, I think Elikem has done justice to the issue, but there's the need for me to add some few things to it. I was even thinking, why is the place not barricaded? Right? Why is the place not, contained and, indicated that nobody should even go close to the country? Why do we have all these pictures around? It's unfortunate, especially in this day and age. I think our institutions, NADMO, the security,
the EPA,
all of them, the place must be barricaded and nobody should get access to the place because you might not know the content of the explosives. A lot of investigation must go into it. So even the cascading effect, you see you are walking there, you think you're okay. Maybe in 5 years, 10 years, then you begin to have a feel of what is happening. Again, like I said initially, Elikem has done a lot in terms of explaining the issues. Education is extremely important, extremely, because if we have the education, we wouldn't see what is going on. In terms of making sure whether there were breaches, there were procedures that were not followed. I was listening to the Deputy Minister for Lands, Natural Resources, whose constituency is close. He was speaking on an FM station, and he said government will constitute a committee to investigate and ascertain what actually happened. And if there are sanctions...
I'm not cutting you. That's quite assuring. But if you look back and try to examine some of these incidents that we have witnessed in this country, you don't find the companies being sanctioned, heavily fined to the tune that we see internationally. Tianjin is an example. Several big firms have been fined big time, to the extent that next time you'll be cautious when it comes to issues of...
I am sure whether if there are investigations that indict the company or otherwise, they must compensate for what has happened regardless, because once there has been an incident of this magnitude, I think there should be some form of, even if not for punishment, but there should be some compensation
for the victims.
But I am resolved. Again, forgive me. Let me join the many Ghanaians to express my deepest condolences to the lives that have been lost and the many who have been maimed as a result of what has happened. But I am convinced and convicted as a Ghanaian that we will put measures in place so that these things this will not happen again. The reason it comes from the backdrop of the fact that when we used to have gas explosions, it has more or less become a thing of the past because of the measures that have been put in place. I am extremely convinced that we'll be able to do so. Before, we used to have fire outbreaks every now and then.
I'm not sounding too pessimistic, but if you look at the incident of Atomic, the gas explosion. You look at June 3rd in Kumasi, we've had a lot of instances. You've not seen any instance where these companies have paid something to
like I'm saying, I mean, there's a
victims. So it doesn't deter anyone from engaging in recklessness. I'm not saying this company was reckless in this instance because it's too early for us to make any sort of pronouncement in that regard. But if you look at what has been happening in the past,
I think that what has been the case in many instances is the lack of communication thereof. Maybe some of these things are happening behind the scenes, but because we don't have the information, we might assume that they are not happening. I know that of MPA because I like the ecosystem, and I know a lot of things have been done to ensure that we don't ever have these gas explosions, and we can see the evidence thereof. So I am saying that what happened is extremely unfortunate, and that I'm also convinced and convicted, and I'm very I can really assure Ghanaians that there will be measures put in place to ensure that we don't experience some of these things. Let me also join Elikem to commend the Vice President for the swift action taken. Whilst doing that, he put in some propaganda, but it's also important. Talking about the no, it was a propaganda, but it's important that the NADMO, NADMO should ensure that the leave items that will be sent there are fit for purpose. You get it? Because I'm sorry, the Vice President will not check every product or item that will be sent there, but eventually when it's not fit for purpose, you'll be the one to be mentioned. So I am pleading with the institutions that are responsible for mitigating the pains and alleviating the pains of the people, that whatever they send to the people must be fit for purpose.
Okay.
There's something the Vice President said that I'm happy that the State Housing Company will quickly look at the situation and see if they can put up
structures.
This more or less, I'm sorry to say, but a blessing in disguise, more or less. So I am very positive that government will take measures to ensure some of these.
Let's take a listen to what the Vice President has been saying earlier as far as what government would do to offer some relief to the affected community and also ensure that such events do not recur.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, thank you very much, members of the community who are here. A major disaster befell us yesterday. It did not only befall the community here in Apieti, it befell the whole of Ghana. And that's why His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, asked me to lead this government delegation to come and assess the situation and see what we are going to do for the people. We have come in and I have received briefings from the police, from the fire service, from the NADMO, and we have also heard from the chiefs. First of all, on behalf of the President and the government, we wish to express our deepest condolences to those who sadly lost their lives from this very, very sad incident. As you know, there was an explosion of a vehicle which was carrying explosives, and that was the reason why we've had this disaster. So far, we are heard that at least 13 people have died. The numbers will change as we see get more and more information. We hear that there are about 59 or so injuries and 179 families that have been affected directly by this disaster. So government on its part is going to do everything to support the families, to support those who have been injured. Thankfully, the ambulance service has played a major role in the rescue. It was a rescue effort that was very well coordinated by the security services, the police, fire, NADMO, Air Force, the ambulance service, you know, the district security, and everybody came together. That we were very fortunate that we could call on 11 ambulances to come in to support this whole rescue effort that took place yesterday. And we thank the Ghana Ambulance Service for that effort. We are also looking into how to make sure that all those who are injured are taken care of. Some have been sent to Tapa, some have been sent to Kumasi, some will be sent to Accra to get the best care that we can afford them. For the houses that have been destroyed, we are already beginning to think about how to rehabilitate and rebuild for the community here. So I want to assure Nananum that His Excellency the President has given us directives. I've already spoken to the State Housing Corporation, and with them and in consultation with the mining companies around here, we will quickly try to put in place facilities that will help those who have been displaced. So that is going to be one of priority for all of us. So just to assure you that government is fully engaged in all these processes, and we are going to see to it that the people here are taken care of. We will learn lessons, and those are going to
Vice President there, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, addressing the community leaders on what governments or measures governments has taken in addressing this very disturbing development. We also know the government vice presidents earlier presented some relief items. It's the first batch to the community, and we expect more to be channeled there because they need it now. And also, the Vice President's pledged that the State Housing Corporation will help to reconstruct the houses. Quite some refreshing news to the victims there. And we'll still be monitoring the situation there, and we'll come back on that important subject of the day when there is any developments. But also in the course of the week, the police has placed a 20,000 bounty on the leaders of the two groups involved in violent clashes at Nima on Tuesday afternoon. That's a suburb of Accra, just some few minutes drive away from the state broadcaster. Now, the two rival groups led by Bom Bom and Kumoji were seen in video slashing each other with machetes, and a lot of gunshots were also heard in the process. So far, 9 people have been arrested, with some of them severely injured. They are at the hospital and under heavy police guard. Addressing the media on Wednesday, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Kwesi stressed the bounty on the 2 prime suspects is to urge the public to disclose all relevant information that will lead to their arrest and prosecution of all persons involved in the violent acts. Quite disturbing development there. The National Chief Imam has condemned the issue and called on the Ghana Police Service to ensure the prosecution of all behind the vandalism, the chaos, the mayhem that we witnessed on Tuesday. Fred, let me start with you on this one. I've been asking myself since Tuesday, what is driving this gangsterism among the youth in Zongos and inner cities, and why are we not having a lasting solution to it?
I don't think we can ever have a lasting solution to it when it comes to gangsterism because of sociological reasons. I mean, as society, develop, when we become more heterogeneous, you tend to see a bit of deviant social misfits and a bit of crime here and there. But that does not mean that we don't need to do something about it to nip it in the bud. To totally eradicate it will be difficult. That's one of the reasons. 2, unemployment among the youth also contributes to some of these things, because the devil find job for the idle hands and all that. And then making sure that the efforts of the security agencies or institutions, especially the police, will deepen their attempts and efforts in making sure that they really do community policing to really find out some of these, gangs, and how to ensure. Sometimes when you go outside the country, the police really work together in collaboration and cooperation with the gangs to help contain, vices and violence in the various communities. So I think we should deepen our police, community policing as well. And what happened in Nima...
on your screens now is the video. For a while I thought it was a movie I was watching when I first saw the video. Quite disturbing. Fred, you can continue with your point.
So for me, yes, I saw this and I was like, well, is this Ghana? And yeah, I was told it is. And you find out that the reason for the fight was because of shisha. Is that smoke thing?
Yes, and I think yesterday in the press briefing, the police said it's as a result of supremacy and turf war. We are in control of Nima. We are in charge of Mamobi, and that has led to...
of course, what will bring about the turf war, the catalyst, will be something very minor, something trigger. But because of, trying to exert your authority and to show who is powerful and who is not, but the root cause of it, I'm told, is because of that. But again, the rivalry gangs will try to exert the authority by either hurting somebody, maiming somebody, or killing somebody. I want to say that those who are involved should be ashamed of themselves, especially in the 21st century where the youth are driving the economy. The activities are driving the economy. What they are doing is helping government, grow the domestic product. And then you find yourself doing some of this. I don't think it all goes well. But I think also that we leaders, opinion leaders, including political leaders, have a responsibility to ensure that adequate provision is made for the youth to give them room. And that is why I think the actual effects have not kicked in yet, but it's a good attempt. The establishment of the Zongo, it used to the development fund, and then the coordinator that we have to supervise some of the employable activities in the Zongo area, and also some activities that will engage them as you speak. During the era of Honorable Sadiq Boniface, and then subsequently Honorable Mustafa Hamid, you could see there were attempts made, the youth in cybercrime, making sure they take care of some of them through the university or some medical school, to really assure them that indeed we have a lot of potential out there. I was born in the Zongo. I was born in Akotialai Zongo. And I can relate to what is happening and what is going on there. With the infrastructure, especially the AstroTech that is available, I think that when efforts are being made to help them, they should take advantage of these efforts. I understand that they might not be adequate, but it does not warrant that you engage in such activities. I don't think it's good for them, it's good for their image, it's a retrogression that is not needed, that is not necessary. Now, government and the police will come hard at them, will ensure that they are there. It will bring some discomfort in how they live over there. So I would want to plead with them, that I will plead, because what they require to get out of that situation have not been there perfectly. But it does not mean that they need to continue to engage in these activities.
Genuine concern there, but I also think whether in Zongos or inner cities, the police have failed in dealing with possession of firearms in the country. And once a young man or woman is in possession of firearm, illegally possessed, and there is any sort of confrontation, the person one has issues of employment, issues of livelihood, and there is any sort of confrontation, there is the urge for the person to pick the firearm to put it to use.
It's true, and more especially when you look at our sub-region, talking about Mali, Burkina, Cote d'Ivoire, Niger, where there are some form of conflict. There's a potential of some guns or ammunition coming into Ghana. There's a potential of that. So I understand. Ghana recently joined the United Nations Security Council. So some of these things, and we have a committee actually, the first committee that takes care of armament and international security, these informations. And recently, when the National Security Minister came together with the Norwegian Foreign Minister to address the United Nations on the cause of piracy in our Gulf, I think the Gulf of Guinea. So we have some sort of information regarding the insecurity in our regions, and that also contributes to some of the arms that do find itself in our country. And like you rightly said, it's not just about the police, but our national security. I know there's a synergy, coordination between National Security, Ministry of Defense, and the other security agencies that are trying so hard to fight some of this. And I can say for a fact that they are doing a good job. But of course, that might not be enough. Let me commend the previous administration for trying to establish that CCTV system. They started it, but unfortunately, they couldn't do much. We have come to deepen it. So some of these things, sometimes you don't have to physically be there. Some of these technology will be able to help you monitor some of these activities. So we have a very serious situation at hand where if care is not taken, this thing can degenerate into a serious, these terrorist groups can take advantage of these vulnerable people, and it will be catastrophic. Okay. I have so much belief in our security agencies because I know what they do, and I'm sure that they will take steps to address and contain what is happening. I'm really hopeful about that.
Kim, how worrying is what we saw on Tuesday?
Yeah, this is. Oh, before I quickly come there, I'm glad my brother agreed with me that we needed to check the products that were being distributed by the Vice President. Just on a lighter note, I also believe that just an advice, he should be measuring the promises that he'll be giving out to the people at this particular point in time. Talking about this Mamobi Nima issue, when I saw it, even now, you saw me, I couldn't contain the sight of, and because I saw some of the videos with human flesh cut off completely at the back with the organs in moving, and you could, what makes a young person think that this level of violence is what makes me feel more powerful and all of that? But you see, a lot of variables account for these things. One of the very first ones, which I will always say without any fear or favor, is the patronage by politicians. A lot of politicians patronize these people in certain times in order to exert violence on their opponent or other things, which is most unfortunate. Lawlessness, law has broken down also to a large extent as we speak currently. We may cite other examples which my brother may think I'm just being political, but that is not true.
Why do you think?
No, it's because it has given some people the effrontery to feel that it appears everybody can break the law and get away with it. If somebody can assault a police officer in the seat, at the seat of the government, at the Flagstaff House or the Jubilee House, and many other examples that we can cite, it is emboldening lawlessness. So people now feel that sometimes you agree with me. You hear some people even say, you can call whoever, me, I even know this person. So they feel some emboldenment in what they do. So these are people who are not necessarily jobless. But this is even probably part of their part-time job because they were sitting and having conversations and then somebody wanted to exert his power or the other. And these are the same people sometimes who visit crime on us in our homes and all that. They do not care what they do. Look at the video of the gentleman who was running away. His leg was almost cut off. He tried getting up and they were still after him. And there could even be innocent victims along the way in the process of this. Somebody's car may be smashed. Anything at all could happen. It is just very bad. Our security agencies should also be up and doing. You see, a typical example I'd like to make reference to is, to make an example of is, sometimes when you you are robbed of, let's say, your mobile phone or something, you can go to a certain place and you'll be shocked the security men will be able to go and retrieve your item for you. They know these guys, and some of them act as CIs, confidential informants, to them. So somehow we patronize them even indirectly. So you hear that this gang leader is so and so. Almost all the police officers, the top-notch guys, know them. But they engage them.
If you go to Nima today, there is open drug trade in every corner.
Yes.
Nima police station is just down there.
And it's bad.
And the police telling us they are not aware of.
When you want to say these things, sometimes you are told to be measured. Where we have even some of the security officers themselves sitting with them and engaging in this on the quiet or on the blind side. And these are truths they know, and you don't want you to say it in public. If not, you rather become their enemy. But it is not leading us anywhere than into an abyss. See what happened. It is needless. And imagine that we allow this thing to continue to fester. We are in a time where we are getting closer to an election on the national stage. We will be getting to the various constituencies, branches, and all of that. Politicians will want to patronize these people. Why would you have to name somebody else to actually exert your authority? It makes absolutely no sense. And you see, the law on firearm is actually not something we should even talk about. If you look at the weapons that were used, some of those weapons are sold on the streets. I'm talking about machetes. I recall when even some friends of mine came some years back from the States and we were driving on the streets and the guys were selling those things. These are weapons. Why are they selling it on the street? Well, welcome to Ghana. You see, so we need to really regulate things and stop the lip service.
You said your friend came from you.
Yes.
When you go to Walmart, and you even can buy gun. Leave them.
No, that is at the regulated place you can, but not on the street.
You will license
you get it,
right?
You license it.
We're not talking about the lapses. Whether there are lapses
I'm talking about
the
hypocrisy. Some of us,
the fact that the weapon.
I understand. Sometimes you see that wrong thing and it's dangerous.
To the extent that even he's selling it and he approaches you in your car and then pulls it out as if you have committed crime and he's about to, you know, it is very worrying. When I saw the video, initially I was like, what's happening? Where is this? And they said it was at Nima Mamobi. What is the cause? Over what? Shisha. And you see, and even if we may say we are saying it's over shisha, these guys are probably on some other drugs that has that has induced all of this. It is not just over that. And it also tells you how sometimes I keep saying that, look, when you like this gentleman, make him know you like him. If you don't like him, make him know you don't like him. Where they pretend as if all is okay, but they have had some sinister intentions against each other for some time. And something just sparks it, and they've decided to lash on that, to use it as a yardstick to perpetrate whatever crime. I pray strongly that the police begin a proper crackdown. A proper crackdown in the sense that their own officers who also mingle with these people and engage in all manner of activities that are crime-related with them should also be cut down as well. If not, it is still just a
holistic approach.
We are paying to this. I want to believe that the current IGP would not only be somebody interested in the cameras, but he would do the job as expected of him. So we clamp down on this. And can you imagine people wielding machetes like this in a market?
I believe that what Elikem is suggesting is one of the many solutions, but the actual solution is what the New Patriotic Party or government has been championing, making sure that we develop our inner cities and Zongo communities. Because, trust me, if you go hard at them, they will still find a way of being illegal. But the most important thing is to create opportunities. Opportunities, jobs, education, opportunities. With time, you see them, gravitating towards what is good. If you travel abroad, that's the system they put in place. If you do not get them out of that community, they will grow up and be like this. But when you are able to properly educate them, you realize now when they are done with school, they will move to either the East Legon is too plush. They will either move to East Legon Hills, the Santoma Jo area. Then you see them leaving, and then the young ones coming to, this man, Idrisu was here, Sani was here. He left when he went to school, when he did this. So opportunities should be given to them. Priorities should be given to these communities. Yes, I understand that you must all have a fair share of the cake, but extreme priority should be given to these people, especially education and employment. If you don't do that and we go hard at them, in terms of the police or military or the security agencies, they will definitely find a way in the system to perpetrate their illegality. So I believe strongly that government upon government must make deliberate attempt and effort to educate that community to ensure that we provide some form of employment for them.
Can I give you 30 seconds to wrap up on this issue?
Yeah, I think that the opinion leaders must also step in.
And I think that's one of the concerns I also have. I've seen instances where people engage in these violent acts, they are arrested, and you find local authorities going to secure bail for them, and it ends up without
There's a point I need to make, please. You see, I don't think in recent times, maybe this year or the last 6 months, that impunity, you think you can call a big man and when you commit a crime you can get away with, I don't think it exists anymore.
Let me tell you this to let you know that it's still happening.
No, I'm not saying it will go away.
Last week I was on one of our programs, news, and we had a guest in the studio who was a member of parliament. In the midst of the program, he received a call. Somebody called him that police have arrested him. He was riding without license. And he was telling the police officer, I am so and so. I'll come and see you later. Let him go.
And it won't go out, but for me personally,
so politicians are still doing it, our chiefs, our opinion leaders in the community.
Personally, I don't think I would ever want to get myself in a situation where I would have to place a call to any big man, knowing very well the situation. Look at the IGP, and then you hear Kofi Amia has committed a crime or has done something illegal. And no, I don't want to, but I'm saying that it has not been eradicated completely away, but gradually that culture that you can get away with crime, I mean, we are getting there. It used to be emboldened, it used to be very bad, but gradually I think...
Okay, let's give the last bite to Elikim on this.
Well, maybe Kofi has been going to the US and back and forth. So, because, I mean, this has become rather very worrying and pervasive currently as we speak.
Oh,
where,
no.
Where a lot of instances, issues happen, and even, look, by the fact that you even mention or be known to be from the regime, the security officer is afraid to actually touch you.
No.
Yes, I'm telling you, because they feel like I don't want to go on a certain tangent. They know.
Yesterday, I wasn't wearing a mask. Okay, and I was driving a car with a certain plate. The police told me if I don't fix it, he will arrest me the next time. He knows me, who I, with the greatest of humility. He told me next time if I see you, I will arrest you. So I don't think it's as pronounced as they used to be.
It is. There are very few who are very assertive and understand the role and the laws, and will go all length to defend that law, damn whatever consequences it is. But its abuse has been very flagrant, and that is still there, which we must look at. Because we need the opinion leaders' voices of dissent to all begin programs, not only going to reach out to talk or go and build these people, but let's engage them to know that, look, violence has no payment.
Well, if you've just joined us, it is Weekly Press Review, your #1 wrap-up analysis program, live on GBC News and on GTV. We are also live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. The number on your screen, if you want to join the conversation, I'll soon be reading your messages. You can send your message there. Please remember to add your name and your location so that we will know where you are sending your message from. Well, the government has said the country's economic fundamentals are strong and that measures are in place to achieve revenue targets for this year. In a statement, the Ministry of Finance said the strength of the economy was hinged on growth in the third quarter of last year. The Ghana Revenue Authority exceeding its revenue mobilization target for the year and the country's strong reserves position. The GRA, which is mostly in charge of domestic revenue mobilization, exceeded the target by 265 million Ghana cedis, or 0.5% in 2021. Reacting to some media reports purporting that the economy is in distress, the Ministry of Finance said there were some serious factual errors in publications which might give investors some cause for concern if not corrected. For example, Bloomberg stated 81.5% debt to GDP as at the end of last year. This, according to the ministry, is incorrect, and it says our provisional nominal debt to GDP as at the end of November 2021 was 78.4%, which is the latest data available. On Eurobonds, the ministry acknowledged that the current trading levels of the country's instrument had widened, that is, the coupon or interest rates increased, but it did not believe that it was warranted nor reflected the strong underlying fundamentals of the Ghanaian economy. It did not also reflect the country's rapid rebound post-COVID-19, as evidenced by the healthy GDP growth of 6.6% in the third quarter alone and an average of 5.2% for the first 3 quarters of 2021. And we've also had in the course of the week the finance minister justifying the need for the implementation or the passage of the e-levy, describing it as crucial to government's revenue programs for this year. Let me start with you, Elikem, on this one. The government admits there are challenges in the economy, but insists the economy is not in distress. Is that something or a position you agree with?
Does it sound sane? Does it sound logical? Does it make sense?
I can have challenges, but it doesn't mean the challenge is out of control.
You see, at one point you hear the same government machinery trying to let us know that COVID is the reason why we are on our knees. That's why our economy is on its knees. COVID is the reason, and we are not out of the woods and all of that.
Is it not true?
I cannot agree with that. Then the next moment, they want us to believe again that the economy is on strong footing and we are not distressed. Do you think an economy that is not distressed would have even been finding a way to steal from the people by the introduction of this e-levy?
How do you call it stealing?
Let me give you an example. Do you know that, okay, this is an electronic wallet, just like my wallet I have in my pocket. You have your capital. Now, a certain institution has created an electronic wallet for you. So they will definitely charge you for that service. Government is also saying that I have my eye on the money you have in your wallet, and I have interest in that. Does it make sense?
When you transact business?
When you transact with business. The money that being paid to you, what if I take my salary, if I'm working, assuming I'm working and I take my salary, because of COVID-19, same COVID-19, I'm supposed to avoid too much physical contacts, therefore buy online, etc. And I'm supposed to keep the money in my electronic wallet. I keep that in my electronic wallet. After all the deductions, and government is saying that it's going to deduct, it is going to deduct further from that.
When it transacts?
When I make any payment, when I use my money that has already been taxed to again buy. No, it's not only that. No, let's not confuse people.
No, they're saying that, right?
You see? Yes. So what sense does it make? And you see, you would only see the desperate measure by the finance minister to defend this. All of a sudden, the likes of Bloomberg and Fitch are no longer credible. But when they were in opposition, these were the very institutions that they lauded to have been the very institutions.
Have they debunked the Fitch ratings reports?
They are doing so all over. I don't know if...
I've heard the minister debunking, I've seen the statement debunking the Bloomberg reports, not Fitch ratings.
Well, we are yet to. Maybe Kofi will also have a bite on that and tell us if they are disagreeing with that as well, too. And you see, so... it all doesn't just make any sense. The fact is that, look, if you don't, there's a local saying that so if your mom or grandmother is dead and you are still telling people it's not, see the mess we are in. Currently, our budget, how much deficit do we have on that? About 37 billion. Where are we going together? It tells you and I that even if the president has to move from the Flagstaff House to Nima or to Bogoso, we have to borrow money to buy fuel to fill that tank.
We are not that broke.
That is how broke we are.
The numbers doesn't support
that is how broke we are as a country. And you see, when all these budgets have been presented in times past, did the opposition or the minority not agree with them while we proceed? But why is it that this time alone, there's a lot of disagreement with some things and they do not want to? And when you look at these things, these are major concerns of Ghanaians. I have said this time without number and repeating it here again, that should government insist on trying to implement this, there will be a strong implosion against the regime because every Ghanaian who is opposed to this and will be against it, except for they who are just members of their party.
On Wednesday, the finance minister was at a press briefing where he announced that government ministers, including himself, will embark on a public sensitization on the e-levy. In fact, he said they have done some analysis and collected data, spoke with people where the concerns, according to him, were not about the e-levy, but accountability and effective usage of the resources that will be mobilized in that regard.
You see, I think he's trying to find a very smart way of shifting blame and to shift focus. If there's a major concern of accountability, it tells you that in the past years, there has not been accountability, there has not been transparency. That alone is a major dent on him. And he should not be telling us this to make it look like, oh, Ghanaians are ready to pay any amount, but they disagree because they feel that it is not going to be accounted for. But yes, obviously, we have all known the COVID funds and what happened. We cannot even tell till date how well, in the end, we learned 35 million was spent on what? Conferences, Zoom conferences, and all what have you. No reasonable citizen will allow whoever is governing him or her to spend his meager resources that way. So when Ghanaians, look, you see that what they intend, that they'll go on public sensitization. They should just be careful they don't incur the wrath of the Ghanaian, because this kind of go to a plush hotel and enjoy the luxuries of that and say we are engaging the public by just selecting some few people who are pro the regime to embark on a mission called public engagement. Let's stop this gimmicks. Ghanaians are opposed to it. It is final.
Fred, we have issues with our debts. Revenue is still below 13% compared to nearly 20% being done by our peers in the sub-region. That is revenue to tax to GDP. Yeah. There is a lack of access to the capital market as it stands right now because the coupon rates are not favorable. Yet we say the economy is not in distress.
Yes, the economy is not in distress. I mean, when you do the calculation of the gross domestic products, look at the government expenditure, investment, exports, monies, imports, all these things come to the final result of your gross domestic products. As we look at it now, the fact that we are challenged with regards to payment of our amortization and then the interest payments, okay, does not mean that we are in distress. An economy that is in distress has some characteristics, okay? So you need to look at those characteristics. For example, if somebody has COVID, there must be symptoms as to why the person has COVID. So if an economy is in distress, it must be one that is not able to pay its workers. If an economy...
on a lighter note, what if the person is asymptomatic?
And we really can't because we are borrowing to pay.
Yet COVID is there.
If an economy is in distress, it wouldn't be able to finance the many infrastructure that we see currently ongoing.
You borrowed to do that. Oh, okay, sorry.
Allow him.
But borrowing is part of managing an economy. That's why I'm saying that when you see, I today, you know, GTV, you don't do a lot of politics. So I've tried, but you want to push me there. You have clearly
go ahead and make your points.
You have clearly amplified the fact that when it comes to the management of the economy, you people, you don't have any idea as to how to do it. Because even after everything that you have said, you never prefer even one solution as to how, even if we are challenged, even if we are, indeed we are challenged. So what is the alternative of the NDC?
I'll tell you.
Oh, you didn't say it, now you're about to tell me. You had an opportunity. So for me, I was just listening to you, taking notes. But if I'm a Ghanaian watching and even disappointed in the MPP, and finding solace in the NDC to come, in the midst of our challenges as a result of COVID, whether you like it or not, what would the NDC do differently to ensure that we are comfortable? You sat here, you didn't say anything. But I'm here to announce to the good people of this country what this government is doing to ensure that indeed we are challenged. And let's go, because you don't have time, let's quickly look at certain situations. You talk about Fitch, okay, part of the ratings. We have Moody's, we have Standard & Poor's. And now we are saying that we are B- with a negative outlook. And please, pay attention, with your permission, to the reason they cited for why the B- and negative outlook. This is what they said. They said this comes in the context of uncertainty. No, let me go back. Fitch says that loss of access to international capital market in 2021 leading to 2022 is followed by a pandemic-related surge in government debt. This comes in the context of uncertainty about the government's ability to stabilize debt and against a backdrop of tightening global financial conditions. Let me explain what they are saying to you.
We don't understand.
Not to you. We have what. So what this means is that because of COVID, which has not gone and will keep coming, the government expenditure has increased. And once government expenditure increases, and when you look at items of the budgetary lines, you realize a chunk of it, apart from salaries and wages, go into interest payments. Okay? Now you have a government that is trying to put mitigating factors in place to ensure that the COVID do not swallow us. And at the same time, try to revitalize and stabilize the economy. It will mean that an increase in government expenditure in making sure it goes into these areas, thereby ensuring that the government ability to pay its debt, it's risky. So if you're an investor and you want to invest in Ghana, you have to be mindful of the fact that government, and not just this government, is struggling, especially because of COVID. That is what Fitch is saying. Yes. So if, yes, exactly. But even without COVID, in 2014, okay, according to African Development Bank, the NDC could not pay our interest payments, even without COVID, according to African Development Bank.
An economic crisis in 2014, the power struggle that we had.
Who caused them? And indeed, the power crisis, the doomsday, if you read Ghana's Energy Commission's reports from 2013 to 2015, the executive summit, they made it abundantly clear that the challenges we are facing is not as a result of our effectual capacity, our inability or the unavailability of the turbines or the barges or the plants. It's because of money. And this point has been amplified many occasions. So clearly, when it comes to the management of the economy, yes, we are challenged as a result of the cascading effect of COVID. Because of the disruption in the global supply chain, we are talking about containers that were costing about 3,000, now costing 8,000, 9,000. What are you talking about? Okay. When you go to some shops in the US, for 2 weeks, even tea roll, you will not find on the shelves. Even currently, there's a shop in Jamaica Avenue, dollar store. You go there for 2 weeks, you won't find tea roll there. Why? Because the supplies from China, and as we speak now, people cannot even go to China. So clearly, we have been impacted and affected by COVID. Okay. The United... this is my food. Yes, yes. If you look at a report by the United Nations Development Program and the World Bank, they did an analysis, and they talked about the fact that 36% of our industries closed down. And it became difficult for them to resurrect. The point clearly is this, and regarding e-levy.
No, even before you bring in e-levy, you've made a point, I'll let you come in. Let's go on to Zoom and speak with Professor Ebo Texin, an economist, will help us appreciate some of the concerns about the economy. Prof, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me on the program.
Prof, an economy that has a debt issue like ours, an economy that has revenue issue like ours, an economy that has no access to the international capital market, how will you describe it?
Okay, thank you, and good morning to your viewers. I've had a debate that has been going on lately about issues related to our public debt and the credit ratings that has been pronounced on Ghana. And I've also heard comments to the effect that Ghana is broke, Ghana will crash, Ghana is facing a debt crisis. I mean, Ghana is not broke, Ghana will not crash. Ghana will not are facing similar challenges. Ours seem to have been followed quicker than other countries would find out. And as we speak, the main issue that is confronting us at the moment is the fact that our debt sustainability analysis, it doesn't look true. I want us, anytime we talk about our public debt, to take away the politics, because it doesn't help anyone. It's about Ghana. It's Ghana's public debt. Don't forget that part of the debt that we even, the debt service that we even have to contend with every year might not necessarily have been monies that were borrowed by this government or any government at that time. It could be as a result of our old debts that are maturing, what we call amortization. So what we face at the moment with regards to our public debt should be something that we should discuss with, and what we need to ask ourselves is, where have we come up to this point? How did we get here? I'm very certain that this discussion will never have been held in maybe February 2020. If you cast your mind back to the 2020 budget that was read in November 2019, Ghana was on a path to fiscal consolidation. Ghana's macro indicators were solid. It could have been as a result of the IMF reforms that we went in for in 2015. But Ghana was on the right track. The projected growth about 6.5% around of that. Then COVID hit. COVID dealt a very severe blow to our public finances. And that is why we find ourselves where we are. To run a fiscal deficit of around 14%, and then in the next year run around debt to GDP ratios to levels that will look very hard to throw your hands at the average for debt to GDP ratio. Ghana falls below that average. Even in Africa, comparing our peers like Tanzania, Kenya, South Africa, and co., we are not doing too badly, except that for the country itself, it looks like the debt service out of our domestic revenues have increased, and it's gotten to levels that we need to begin to get worried. Okay. But we shouldn't be fighting over fish ratings. We shouldn't be fighting over that. Quite clearly, if you look at the current budget that was read, the government has put in place a lot of policies that are meant to ensure that we sustain a robust growth looking forward to 2020-25. We are going to see a lot of initiatives as government promised under the Ghana Cares Over Tampa program to get our economy to recover, revitalize, and move the economy ahead. When you have a high debt to GDP ratio, but there is a good plan in place to see how best the economy is growing and their efforts at fiscal consolidation, your challenges are just temporary, and things would move into a more with a brighter outlook.
I'm not cutting you, but talking about fiscal consolidation, we know it's not just about revenue, because on the revenue side, we've seen the introduction of the controversial e-levy. We've seen the increase in government fee services, and we've seen other measures that government is rolling out to boost the performance of revenue. But achieving fiscal consolidation also requires some expenditure rationalization, of which we haven't seen much, even in the 2022 budget.
Precisely. I was going to go to that when I was talking about what was in the budget. And obviously, our fiscal consolidation efforts will look at both sides, because every revenue gain is money to fund whatever expenditure has to be funded, or every reduction in expenditure is indirect revenue that government has gained. So it's good that we look at both sides. Now, when we talk about fiscal consolidation, all that we are saying is that our fiscal deficits are going to reduce over time, and that will mean either increasing our domestic revenues and or cutting down on our expenditure. So it's important, whatever policies are in place to increase domestic resource mobilization, for us to at the same time look at the expenditure side. And it's important that the current government will take a look at prioritizing expenditures that are very important for this year, for us to carry them through, and hold on with others that might not be very important now because of our fiscal challenges. And it's important that we are able to make sure that whatever target we have for budget deficit of 7.4, we do not move it into the double digits, because that is what investors are apprehensive of as we speak. And so they are only willing to lend to us at huge interest rates because they are not sure of our government's commitment to fiscal consolidation. So it is important on the government side to reduce expenditure, make sure that our expenditure lines are carried out with value for money as an appealing principle. We should ensure that when we buy, we are looking at value for money so that our expenditure will not go above what we are projecting, and then we are able to meet our revenue target. Once the signals are clear to the investors, I mean, the risks that they have attached to buying our debts, they will reduce their profits about it. And I'm sure the credit ratings will come up and move us back to where we belong.
Prof, if you look at the 2022 budget, the approved expenditure is around 145 billion Ghana cedis. Government is able to raise 100 billion cedis as revenue target for the year, including the e-levy. And a chunk of the 45 billion cedi deficits will be raised on the domestic markets. And I was wondering if the private sector is indeed the engine of growth and we want to support them to drive the economy. If you're going to raise a chunk of that on the domestic market, we'll be crowding them out in terms of access to financing. Isn't that a problem?
Oh, that's a problem. I mean, it's just like an option of either jumping to the deep sea or partying with the devil. I mean, the issues that we have confronting us today, especially with regards to our participation in the ICM, is limiting our alternatives. And obviously, I mean, the domestic market becomes the obvious choice for us to be able to meet our revenue to finance our deficits, deficit financing resources. Now, yes, when government participation on that market is intensive, it has an implication for the treasury bill rates, and that also has an implication for the Ghana reference rates. It has an implication for the lending rates to the private sector. So yes, we should be concerned about that. That's why we need a policy mix to ensure that we are not crowding on the private sector, but we are able to raise as much as we can on the domestic market so that it reduces our financing needs on the external market. I think that one thing that we have not talked about is the fact that amortization of our previous debts has also slightly increased. And so I look at the holders of those debts, shows that about 45% of our external debts are held by concessional, multilateral, bilateral holders. These ones we can see if we can go back to them and see if we can restructure our debts by asking for a further extension of the repayment period, so that even if it comes at a slightly higher interest rate than we are giving to them, it will free us that space that we have to be using to amortize the debts that are becoming due. That in itself will also free for some fiscal space for government to be able to make up for the fiscal consolidation that is committed itself. So there are ways in which we can try as much as possible to work out this and make sure that we can get Ghana back to where it was before the pandemic hit. But I must add also that the apprehension now has also to do with what's going on in Parliament. So I think that the debate in Parliament should not lead us to a situation where it will be difficult for the present government to mobilize the supposed revenue. And this is where there's the need for a lot of discussions, for a lot of stakeholder engagement to ensure that even if the e-levy would be passed, if it is possible to increase the threshold, is it possible to look at a lower rate rather than a 1.75? Are there other alternatives that we can pursue to get revenue? I've said that if 0.25 of the 1.75 is going to go into the road fund, it's not possible to impose vehicle tax on vehicle holders as they go to renew their vehicle permits, because they are the users of the road. So can't we collect some money from there? Can't we make use of taxes on alcohol and cigarettes, for instance? Among the middle-income countries, Ghana is one of the countries that charges lower taxes on these two products. In economics, these are products that have an elastic demand. And for what it's worth, an imposition of a tax will lead to more revenue from those who consume those products, even though to go on to discourage the consumption of that product. And if it does, it also has its health benefits relation. So we can take a look at some other tax handles that will not necessarily have an impact on the poor, will not necessarily, like the NDC say, expose Ghanaians to more hardship. But it's important that we come to a realization that we have to fund our development. We cannot continue to rely on external sources for support. And so efforts by the Ghana revenue authorities now to try as much as possible to take advantage of digitization to be able to rope in the informal sector in terms of income taxes should be sustained. There's a need to support the GRA to put in place all the mechanisms. It is when we are able to collect enough income taxes that we can fund the development initiatives that this government thinks that is the way out for Ghana. And so it's important that we come to the realization that it's all about Ghana. Yes, we are doing some politics, but we need to get it going so that Ghana would not be on its knees. But as we speak, Ghana is not broke, Ghana will not crash, and Ghana is nowhere near a debt crisis. We shall surely overcome.
Professor Ebu Texin is an economist and has been helping us to appreciate some of the dynamics in the economic space. Thank you so much, Prof, for always agreeing to speak with us. We have 2 minutes each for you before we go for a break on this subject. I'll start with Elikem. I'll give you 2 minutes. You can wrap up.
Okay, so let me wrap up on the E-levy. You see, let's have a frank discussion. We've been here before as a result of the incompetence that was manifested in the management of our energy sector ecosystem. And we went through hell. If you look at the Institute of Statistical and Social Economic Research, their research department estimated that Ghanaians were losing $2 million, businesses were losing $2 million every single day because of doing so. So it really affected the economy, and that they called some few individuals to Senchi to discuss the way out. Unfortunately, the way out was to go to the IMF for a bailout. You see,
have you also noticed the same issue that you are citing is of the view that the percentage of the E-levy is too high, and even some two economists from ISA are of the view that it's not the right approach to raising revenue at this present time?
You see, so I was getting there. You see, I love the way we are having the discussion. Instead of calling few individuals here and there, we are all, having the discussion to the extent that, the government would have to come back again for another time for, the E-levy is extremely important, especially in the situation in which we find ourselves. Government must be able to raise revenue, one. Government must be able to expand on infrastructure that will impact on our lives. We cannot continue to borrow. In fact, even if we intend to, the opportunity is not there, because every country, every investor is affected by what is happening, COVID. So now, where do we get the dividends on our investment and all of that? So, trying to raise revenue internally, not necessarily, like you said, crowding out, through the treasury bills and all that, for me, is not the best way to go. It has its effect, which is very damning. We are not going to the IMF for a bailout with other conditions that are extremely harsh and stern to the people. We are saying that at the end of the day, let's all contribute something little to ensure that we don't go to the financial market for debt, for us to be repaying and all of that. But I'll end by saying that we have done it as a political party in government before. and we can do it. When we came to government in 2016, we were not in good times. To the extent that we were we did an IMF program which was talking about rationalization of our public sector and other harsh conditions. We were able to win ourselves out of the IMF conditionalities, and we were making gains, like Prof rightly alluded to. We are in a situation where things are difficult. We are challenged. But I can assure the good people of this country that we are more than capable. We are more than, we have the wherewithal to ensure that we bring the economy back to its rightful trajectory, to ensure that indeed we live will come to Ghanaians, we live will come to the business community, we live an assurance and believe will come to the foreign direct investment ecosystem.
Early Kim, they say despite the challenges, they are more competent to manage the economy than any other party, including
Sonny,
the NDC.
You are,
Is that something
you are the host of this program. If you are good at what you do, I'm sure you will hear feedback from people praising you for the work you do. I mean, so if interestingly, you have them saying themselves that they are the competent managers and all that. You see, words and rhetoric mean nothing to the average Ghanaian watching you and I today. We are competent, we are this and that. That is what we are seeing today. That is the reasons why we were telling you, for instance, when the president was making appointments of over 125 people, that is unnecessary, that was very needless. You didn't listen. And today you are asking again, what solutions did you provide? When the Auditor General told you that over 12 billion has actually been expended in corruption, you think that you are not supposed to pay attention to that? The reports are there, you're asking if that's what it said. So you see, and you have a regime that is borrowing to pay for consumption, or that is borrowing to pay salaries. And you think that is sustainable? We can choose to play words. You can call John Mahama incompetent. You can call the MDC incompetent. The Ghanaian is watching the mess that we find ourselves in today. That is right on the streets. That is there for everybody to see. So if you think that it's just by the fact that you'll be using mere words, you are telling us you want to develop this country. You want this, we are in the year of roads. And you have called for a cessation of collection of road tolls across the country. Again, Sonny, does it make sense?
Has it not been embedded in the e-levy?
Embedded where? You see, what is the assurance on the e-levy? You see, let's get to some facts about how they are confusing people. Why has even the electronic transactions gone up? Because of COVID, as a result of which people are encouraged to avoid more physical contact and use that. Now, so you think that this is going to be sustainable because you're already thinking that then COVID should stay for the next 5 years and less. So
isn't the world order changing? And we are...
The world order is changing. That is why we're saying find better ways of taxing the people, not the laziest of approaches you are using right now. The better ways we're telling you. I have just given you an example. And even, you see, the prof also said the same thing. For instance, let's take vehicles. The average or middle class are the people who own cars. Whether it is even a tractor or not, you are better off than the very low class. So when even a vehicle is paying road toll, it is not the driver who is probably a poor man who is paying toll. Now you have asked that these rich people rather should not pay toll and let them continue driving free. You see the mess on our roads now. Even on the motorway, as late as 10 p.m., there is possible traffic. Because the road toll itself in one way served as a measure of controlling the movement of vehicles. Now everybody is just running through, and the motorway has now become also another mess, and across everywhere. So when you keep saying, what are the solutions you are preferring? Admit that you are bereft of ideas now and call for the solutions. Don't be saying, Ghanaians who are watching, why do you think we are opposing some of the things? The opposition being rendered against something you are proposing is enough solution. It is to tell you that that is wrong. So why are you saying, now you want to hear us say that, okay, then do this A, B, or C. Admit that you have bereft of ideas.
Ghanaians are asking you. Not
Ghanaians are not asking. We haven't had Ghanaians ask us yet.
Really?
You see, don't throw, when you limit governance to preachings by the will of God, clad in white and using your, that doesn't govern a nation. I'm assuring the good people of, they don't need those assurances. We've heard them time without number. Let your deeds speak for you. So we want to see, what are you doing for this and what, that is what I'm telling you. For the first time,
no, I'm coming.
Yes.
We have to go for this break,
Yes.
but I have a question. In the state of our economy
Yes.
now, when we know that revenue is underperforming, when we want to cut our reliance on external borrowing, you don't think the e-levy is a necessary tool for government to raise?
We should find ways to plug some of the holes. The Corruption Institute that has been established under this regime that is live and well must be addressed. We can't be losing close to 15 billion to corruption and expect that the Ghanaian will feel okay to still say, let me pay more. Now, aside all that, this is a regime that is not that is just that is spending on consumption. You are supposed to invest in capital investment so that we know that, look, as I speak, I think AmeriPower is now fully owned by Ghana. Yes. That is an investment. That is what we are talking about. But you don't come and say, look, cut down on this, even the executive spending or government spending in general. We need to make sure we cut down. We are challenged. Let's admit the word is challenge, not distress. They feel so threatened by the use of distress. Let's admit we are challenged. We are challenged as a government, and the regime and the leader doesn't see that there is need for me to cut down to the extent that as you and I speak, our president has a chair that is put in a V8, fuel-driven and protected by security to everywhere he goes to. Does that make sense to even the external person you go to actually borrow? Let us face the facts and not pretend that we have to defend this at all costs. And no,
we need to go for
cut down on expenditure. That is even number one.
I hope when we come back, I would have an opportunity.
Of course, we continue with the conversation. Elike, we come back to you. It's still weekly press review, your number one wrap-up analysis program live on GBC News and on GTV. We go for a break. When we return, we'll be reading your messages because you are part of the conversation. Stay with us.
Officer, are you doing the devil's work too?
Yes, the pay is good.
But this driver could cause a lot of damage, you know.
Oh, who cares? Up damage might they no pity you. Everyone for himself.
Aren't you worried the service will dismiss you for conflict of interest?
Who is going to tell them about me? You?
You are setting a bad example.
Am I the first to do this? Oh, yeah, did you want to do?
Do you see yourself stopping this job anytime soon?
Not even in my dreams. I should stop. For what?
But do you feel sorry if bad things happen?
Anyone that falls on the bad side has natural selection to blame.
Are you sure you are not the devil?
Make you not do Abon Samijuma. Stay alive. This Stay Alive campaign is brought to you by the National Road Safety Authority. There are strong women whose stories teach us perseverance, logic.
Thank you so much for staying with us. It's still weekly press review, your number one wrap-up analysis program. We will now read your messages because it's very important to us. We need to pick your thoughts on how issues in the country are panning out. This is a total negligence. The company should be held responsible, make them pay compensation to those affected. It is obvious the vehicle had no escort with them. There's no need for setting up committee to waste money. And of course, he has not added his name. Please add your name and your location so that it will help us appreciate where you are sending your messages from. This one says, what's up, bro, here? So exactly what the man in the middle is saying is the truth. It's true, 100%. The elders in the country, back them up. The guy wearing African wear has slow memory. I don't know. You're not making also any much sense to us. I'm Nicholas from Tema, but what happened in Nima, it's not good. We cannot play your voice on the program. It's Elikem asserting that the Nima and Mamobi hoodlums are linked to only MPP politicians. Both MPP and NDC big guns use them. Elikem, that's a response to maybe the impression you've created. All the problems come from our security setup. I have such experience many times in my community here in Oblogo. When criminal issues happen and you report to them, they will send you to go and bring the criminal. I have a personal experience. Fred, I visited somebody and he had a scuffle with another person. So he thought the person had come back to attack him. When I knocked and he opened the door, he was pointing a gun at me. He told me, "You were lucky. I was just going to trigger." I was so shaken. I called the nearest police station because it's not far from my community, and they told me to come and report before they go and check. If the police is interested in our security at the local level, you'll be interested to know how he's even possessing a gun, why it's licensed or not, because who will be the next victim? So this is a genuine concern that somebody has just raised. All the problems come from a security setup. I have such experience. I think this is the message that we read. I totally agree with you, bro. Some of these gang leaders know the top police officers. It reminds me when I was staying in a shaman, the life there is something else. No security. They once took my phone and I went to make a report at the Ashaman police station, but it came out that the officers knew them all, especially that Ashaman 18 back of, I think you've not added your name. Please add your name and where you're sending the messages from. My brother, these are friends to the police. The police know them very well. It is not only the Zongo communities. A place like the Winya has become a place that you cannot even sleep. And this one from Abdullah Abdul Mumin Agboba Madina, he said, "We are all one people, so why all these fights and violence? We are all," the message to, why all these violence? Because we are all one people. He said, "We have to put a stop to this because there is a saying, together we stand, divided we fall." I think that's a good one from Abdullah. We need to heed to his advice and it's going to help us. This one says, "Good morning. My name is Misty Jackson from Ashaman. Zongo societies in Ghana needs a serious education and development," and that's in line with Fred. Not just Zongo communities, but we need to ensure that even the inner cities, we give them something to do so that they will not be engaging in those social vices. Hello, I'm Saada from Legon. My heart goes out to the Bogoso people, and I want to say the Vice President has done marvelously well in sending help to put some relief to the people who fell victim of the sad incident yesterday. Ya Allah, be with the people of Bogoso. That's a prayer to the Bogoso people. I think you guys should at least get to know the knowledge of some of these MPP MPs before bringing them to the show. Okay, so I don't know what you mean exactly, but we have a solid production team and we have an editorial policy that we follow. We don't bring any sort of person in our studios. This is GBC. Now, good morning. My name is Kobna and I'm texting from Nima. I heard you guys saying those hoodlums who caused the riot in Nima didn't fight over Shisha. They both used to be friends. They used to be in the same group of armed robbers and landguards. That's a serious allegation. They are fighting because of money. The guy who shot and killed innocent people, Bombo took the one in red top with machetes, little brother's money. The one is in red. I think he's trying to narrate what happened. He claims to be in the area. And we'll send, my producer says we'll send a message to the police.
He said if you need detail, call me. So,
okay, so I made it just one call. Okay, so
if you need the real
detail, call me. Okay, we send a message to the police. They will call you so that you, of course, the police have been asking for information in this regard. I appreciate that the two gentlemen address issues objectively and not argue over such sensitive matters on political lines. It is important to know that we are, first of all, Ghanaian youth before MPP or NDC. Let's be real and reasonable citizens of the Republic. And it comes from Billy from Tema. Okay. This one said it is very strange that JM's economy, which MPP laughed at because of then Ekwedomko's involvement, didn't stretch our debts to our GDP to over 80%. In a press conference 4 days ago, Ken Offerta said, "That's the Minister of Finance, our economy is robust, so why e-levy? If after borrowing over 290 billion alone and the economy is on recession, Ken Offerta should use the loans he spent for Kenke Party to revive the economy instead of pushing for passage of the e-levy." And this one comes from Pregese Kwame, aristocrat, Kasua, Old Barrier. Of course, even if the economy is on a good footing, we need revenue to sustain it, but that's also your point. Good morning, please. There is a Langards case at the Sherman Circuit Court and the Tema Circuit Court B, which is being done by the Katamanso Police Station and Zenu Police Station by the policeman Solomon. We cannot mention the policeman here because we'll not get him to respond, and that will be one-sided. We don't do this year. Let me read the recent one. And this one comes from, if government is serious, will it stop collection of tolls when the proposed e-levy hasn't yet been approved at the time when it needs to realize more revenue? Is it not somewhat causing financial loss to the state? And that's from Captain Fontechi. Fred, I want you to answer this before we move on.
Sure.
We should have allowed the e-levy to be operationalized before we even suspend the road toll.
But you need to also pay attention to the reasons given. You know, so when you...
And there were concerns that it was even a breach of parliament, because
it is.
Parliament...
That has been addressed already. So.
Well, this one from Aye Bema Camp, he says, "I fully support what Dr. Ibu Forsin said," that's Texan rather, at the ending of his contribution. The government should look at how to finance the measures to the challenges Ghana is currently facing through putting in place a proper measure of collecting income taxes, since that will be a good head start to making these proposed measures fit for purpose. But one financial, okay, we've lost that message. But one thing that I would kindly request from the government is that they concretize the level of transparency in economic matters for the way we can all contribute our necessary part as citizens. That alludes to the points made by Elikem that if we judiciously use the little we have, no one will resist in paying more to fund the socio-economic development of the country. This one says Ghana needs to generate a net positive foreign revenue rather than borrowing or extracting money from this poor society. The e-levy is even illegal, and that's from Ninja PAD. The e-levy is illegal. I don't know what you mean exactly by that. Let me read
That's
the last...
what they've been telling the people.
The last two messages, and we'll continue with the conversation. Afternoon to you and the panel. E-levy, is it income tax or transactional tax for government? By Douglas Kumasa. That's from Kumasi. I will try and get the answers for you. Let me read the last one from Tamale, and it's from Abraham. He says, "Do they know the definition of competence? Before you remove a wall, you need to ask yourself why it was built in the first place. Why should a dishonorable man stop without considering the consequences of his actions on the country?" You can't call the minister. That's you need to attach some respect to him. You can disagree with him, disagree with what he does. We read the messages, but be mindful of the words that you use. And this one from Simon from Kumasi, he says, "If they want to stop these groups of perpetrators, then Parliament should make a law that no party in Ghana can use unrecognized security personnel during election." And that is the issue of the macho men that we use, political vigilante. And this one from Manav, he says, "Salam alaik, Babasani and your honorable." Is it because of my heart that I'm being called Babasani? The disturbance said lawlessness involving the youth in our Zungu communities is not only about joblessness and lack of education. Do you think with factionalized leaderships, a community shall forge forward? No. Now there is no role models to idealize, no vision set for the present and future. Hence, it will breed so many hindering factors, and this is what we are served today. Can I predict tomorrow? Neither you can. Until our leaders join hearts and minds together, our future is in great danger. And that's from my grandson. I'm old enough. I have a grandson who is watching and contributing to the program. We'll go for a break. We'll return to continue with the conversation. Stay with us. Don't go.
so kakra ma ye.
Hey, mommy, I have been some need you.
Oh yes. Great job. Great reward.
Do you know about 6 people lose their life?
Are you sure you are not the devil?
Make you not do Abonsam Ejuma. Stay alive. This Stay Alive campaign is brought to you by the National Road Safety Authority.
Go away from me.
Thank you so much for staying with us. It's still weekly press review, your number one wrap-up analysis program. We are live on GBC News and also on GTV. You can also watch us live on Facebook, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Well, Ghana's Ministry of Youth and Sports has summoned leadership of the Ghana Football Association for an emergency meeting over the Black Stars' poor performance at the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon. A statement from the Sports Ministry on Wednesday expressed disappointment over the performance of the Black Stars, calling for a meeting to see the way forward. The Black Stars were eliminated from the competition after defeat to Comoros and lost all their matches. Not all their matches, they lost 2 of the matches and drew 1 by exiting with 1 point. Last week, ahead of that crucial encounter, we had our sports analyst in the house who gave us high hopes that the Black Stars will win the match and qualify to the next round. Yes, I'm putting him in this corner because I want to get his analysis of how we can deal with this issue. He's back in the studio. Theophilus Sampa is with me and is going to help us analyze the performance of the Black Stars, what went wrong and how we can deal with this issue. Theophilus, let me, I don't know whether you're okay with the introduction. As to the fact that you give us high hopes that the Black Stars...
Ghana itself were waiting for the team to really go out there and walk their talk. They convinced the leadership of this country, made the president believe that this is the 40 years wait and it's going to end this particular time. So they went to the presidency, convinced the president that they need 25 million US dollars. So government decided that, okay, they'll go into their kitty and then dole out $10 million. But there was 2 breakfast meetings with corporate of industry, captains of corporate. So they were just, and it wasn't a fluke. If there wasn't any research to that effect, I don't think that they can be bold enough to get to the presidency and tell the president, they say the president. No, I'm coming to. So you are now asking me why I was so sure that the team will go up. In the first place, if you look at the group we're in, we ain't supposed to even lose a game in this particular group. Seriously. There was something fundamentally wrong. And the bus stops with whoever selected the boys and whoever could not help to really breach that ego. There's something wrong fundamentally with the team. The boys individually are good.
Yes.
You can't tell me that somebody is better currently than Thomas Tepati. But we saw his output on the field of play. We saw the output of Dede Ayew, Andre. We saw the output of the rest of the players. Jiku, Jonathan, all of them that we saw. So the big question is the coach selected players, even included half-fit players and injured players into the squad with the approval of the Ghana Football Association president, because he has informed us that in the past, coaches select their own players for the tournament, but this time it will not happen under his watch. So whatever players will be selected, they need to justify to him and the executive committee before it's approved. And so this one was justified. In the players carried to the AFCON, including Mubarak Wakaso, with the hope that he will recover. He did not recover. You needed Wakaso, there was no Wakaso. There were players at the bench.
You think that was a mistake?
So imagine the coach really had a plan. And his plan was that I need these guys. There should be plan A, plan B, plan C. The coach was bankrupt match day 1, match day 2, match day 3.
When you say bankrupt, what do you mean exactly?
CAF has even given us, FIFA has given every team the opportunity now because of researching that now you don't only change, you can change 5. Yeah. 5 players. Our first game, the boys were literally tired. You could see they were tired. Everybody was changing. What prevented Milo from changing? It is not that you don't have the boys at the bench. He refused to change. It caused us. And then somebody blames Thomas Tepati that he turned and then gave the back pass to a Moroccan to score us. It was just an unfortunate thing. But imagine he had done his changes from the 60th minute, 70th minute when the boys were visibly tired. And nobody will say, I'm changing, your coach is changing. And he said, I don't want to. come out of them. No, hardly do you see those things. The coach refused to change. And when they considered after the 85th minute, he decided that, okay, I remember I have a bench, so let me bring in some people. And the boys you brought in were bringing life, but the time wasn't enough. The second game, we were expecting that there will be change. The gentlemen that were really up and doing, he dropped them in the first game. Pencil like this was dropped because he was more active in the first game. He dropped him. We didn't know why. He brought in new set of players. When the going got tough, look at the time we conceded the goal. Let's forget about the incident that happened, about the fair play thing, because we were having the advantage. And then we gave it out for them to treat their own player. Then that thing happened. But look at the time we conceded. 84th minute, 98th minute. My brother, there is no coach, there is no team that when it's leading and really wants to defend, will allow the defenders to be worn out, the midfielders to be stressed out, and say you still want to. And so we gave it out. That's what I'm saying, that the back stops with the coach. If somebody is behind, is this the Black Stars really playing under 10 men, with 10 men? You saw the zeal. But at the end of the day, what happened? See the time the coach made the changes. Then you ask yourself, why are you doing these changes at this particular time? And even the people he brought on. So meaning that there is Richmond Boachi Adam that can score a goal. And you still play the day you as your lead striker. And you know the day you shouldn't be played as a lead striker. Okay. You know it. Then when the going gets tough, then you push Jordan to go and be the lead striker. Then Ghanaians will diss the gentleman because he is not a striker. Then you put him there. Whose fault is it? You see, when you do these things and you go and tell people that support us and people come, you kill that spirit. The next time they won't do it again. 40 solid years. What excuse can we give again?
I'll come back to you. Let me start with Elikem. I'll pick your thoughts. We are wrapping up in 3 minutes. 1 minute for you. Your thoughts on the analysis given by Theophilus Sabah and what you've seen so far. What should we do? We have a crucial World Cup qualification ahead of us. If you go in with this performance, certainly we will not qualify to the tournament.
My favorite game has always been volleyball. I was a volleyball player. And back in school, I was also into pole vault. But I like football and the display of skills. I always disagree with many whenever they blame more of the coach than the players, etc. But for the first time, I want to believe that a lot of the blame is on the head of the coach. I'm getting to know for the first time today that now you can change even at 5. Yes. So I noticed at the point people change for. I was asking, what's happening? Has the rules changed? And so what exactly was the coach doing? I think he failed to familiarize even with the team himself as number one. He didn't have control. He lost it. Or someone else also behind the game was pulling the strings and he was not actually the one. But whatever it is, he will be solely responsible for that. It is also going to be discussed that the time he was given was too short, amongst other things. But hey, you have known some of even those players way back. And if you have been in Ghana before, knowing how you dealt with them in the past, if it was glory, he would have gotten it all. And so long as it's a fall, he should be ready to take it up as well. But I think this is a very good team. Individual brilliance, check. But I think the teamwork is what is missing. And so they need to fight their egos and begin to realize that we'll succeed.
Let me bring in Fred.
I think Theophilus, you know, he has been spot on with analysis. I think I share with him largely on what he has said. Individually, the players are good. I mean, I have played amateur football before. You can't tell me Baba Ijusu is not good. Come on, he win the 50-50 one. He's strong. In fact, in the first and second game, he did all the work, and third party was just a picture of himself. You can't tell me the Yadom guy, the right full back. I've seen a lot of improvement. He was fantastic. Baba Rahman was better. You can't tell me Chie, the nice guy. Oh, come on. He took it. So individually, they are good. I think the problem has to do with the coaching. This coach has been unemployed for 4 years and you bring him back. I mean, we thought after the, is it June 12 or something, documentary, our football, and let's admit, another documentary has also had an impact on our football. How? Oh,
I disagree with that.
I agree. We can have that. How? Because, listen, first of all, football is not just going to the field and play.
pulling strings behind.
Oh, no pulling strings.
There are a lot of promoting.
For example, look at the
why would you think if Kwesi Ntechi was there?
No, it's not about Kwesi Ntechi. It's the perception that people see about Ghana. When he is going into the game, all his guys are up. This is Ghana. If you're not careful, somebody somewhere will do a document. So every rule of the game, he has it in his pocket. So clearly, I believe that it has an effect on our national team. In any case, they didn't have any positive effect on our national team.
Okay.
The document, what positive effect
I just want to say a good afternoon to the the Sege Youth Organizer and the branch executives as well. But I think at another time we need to discuss this at Dance Songo project.
We'll have time for that. Theophilus, there have been calls for the coach to be sacked. There have been calls for even the FA president to step down. What are your thoughts on that?
In other jurisdictions, nobody should call. They should rather say it. But here, they want us to say it for them to really understand.
Associate didn't see it.
Didn't see it.
We have 10 seconds to wrap up for me.
and so I am hoping that the meeting that the minister will be having later today, with the heads of the management committee of the Black Stars will be fruitful enough, because what we know is that the coach's contract was on performance basis. So if the first one really didn't go well, you should just understand that the big one you want to go, it will not happen. And so they should just probably allow him to go and rest again and then look for another one, because Nigerian coach currently came in just 4 months ago. Are you leaving too? You see, and he has even been told that after that you are leaving. They are not even renewing his contract. Somebody taking them and changing the dynamics of Nigeria. He's leaving. He knows that he's leaving. The successor is there, sitting there waiting for him. And so if Milo tried and he didn't, we should just let him hold on here. We can just arrange again and get another one and pay him very well so that he will continue for us.
Thank you so much. Theophilus Sampa is a sports analyst in the house and has been helping us to appreciate the performance of the Black Stars and what in his expertise think we should do to improve the performance of the team as we go in for the World Cup 2022 qualification. My name is Sani Abdurrahman. This has been Weekly Press Review. Of course, we come your way same time next week with more of events that will happen in the course of the week, and of course captured in the daily. Stay with us. At 2 we'll be coming your way with our first news package.